Clean up my stuff. It's like being at home, right, with all my stuff everywhere. Every professional sports city has athletes they detest. For Cleveland sports fans, we cringe at the name of John Elway, Ernest Biner, and Michael Jordan. These are the players who have shattered our dreams of championship rings and trophies. They are the heavy luggage all Cleveland sports fans are forced to carry. To a Clevelander, it makes no difference how well the Cleveland Browns are playing or how close the Cavs come to a championship, right, Clevelanders? Yes? We are skeptical and pessimistic, and we are always reminded of the ever-disappointing past, even if it took place 20 years ago. And yet, while we are weighed down by the past, we start each season with a clean slate. And Clevelanders once again fill the stands, hoping to move ahead, leave the painful past behind, and travel lightly into the future. Our ancestors are no different than us. This week's Torah portion begins with the death and burial of our matriarch Sarah. We don't know what has happened between Sarah's death and where we left off last week in the Torah. Last week we read about the Akedah when Abraham prepared to sacrifice his son Isaac and later remained in Beersheba. What troubles me is that Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, a town far from Beersheba. The rabbis were also troubled by this, and they filled the gap in the story with midrashim all pointing to Sarah's inability to bear the emotional burden of the Akedah. Some midrashim even say that upon hearing the news, she died on the spot. Sarah was devastated by her husband's actions and was unable to let go of the pain. She died of a broken heart. The emotional weight was also heavy for Abraham to carry. But instead of holding on to everything or even something, he let it all go. Abraham remarried and left his entire past behind him. He never spoke to his son Isaac again. He never even spoke to God again. The burden of the past for Abraham and Sarah was just too heavy to carry. We are no different from our ancestors. Like them, we all own our own heavy luggage. The way we choose to carry it can either be how we drag ourselves down or how we move forward. We are delighted to welcome a group of high school students, you, who are dedicating a weekend to study about justice and learning how to fix just some of our problems facing this world. So tell me, and be honest, how many of you overpacked for this weekend? Really, that's it? Just as Princess Vespa, who's that? Anyone know? Spaceballs. Spaceballs, yes! In Spaceballs, the movie, who brought your Royal Match luggage with your industrial-sized hairdryer, which you cannot live without? Anyone? Do we have hairdryers in the dorms and the bathrooms? So it's a good thing you brought them. When I travel, I am the guy who schleps my overstuffed bags through the airport. Yes, I move slower than everyone else, but the fact of the matter is, not only do I have my can't live without stuff, but I am also prepared for my just-in-case situations. You never know when a spilled Starbucks coffee will ruin that nice white dress shirt, or the sudden change of weather will call for that just-in-case jacket. We all tend to carry items we may not need, and we all have the stuff we cannot live without. Even our ancestors, the ancient Israelites, did this. We know that they had their just-in-case stuff, and it was conveniently put to good use. How else could they have built the tabernacle with gold and silver and various colored yarns and dolphin skins? You never know when you're going to need a dolphin skin. Despite all the extra stuff the Israelites packed, even after 430 years of slavery, they carried one must-have item. Bless you. Joseph's bones. Just prior to the patriarch Joseph's death, he made his children swear that they would carry his bones out of Egypt and bury them in the land that God promised to Abraham. Imagine the significance of Joseph's bones. After Joshua and the Israelites conquered the promised land, they actually fulfilled Joseph's request and buried his bones there. Imagine the stories that must have floated around over the 430 years. Joseph's bones were the only things left that tied the people directly to the sacred covenant between God and their ancestors. Holding tightly onto these bones gave the Israelites faith in a more hopeful future. Yes, they carried everything they owned, both the just-in-case stuff, along with the can't-live-without stuff. And having done so gave them the strength and ability to move forward. But wait, sometimes holding on to the past even a little bit can inhibit us from moving forward. Sometimes we need to completely break from the past and move on. As we saw, Abraham's separation from the past after the Akedah was tragic. However, earlier, it proved essential. Just a few chapters ago, when Abraham's name was Abram, God called him to go forth from your native land and go forth from your father's house to the land that I will show you. Once again, here, the Torah is silent about what prompted God to tell Abram to leave. Our tradition fills that silence with stories about Abraham's childhood and his family idol-making business, which he chose to reject. When God calls Abram to leave, he literally gets up and goes, leaving his entire past behind him. We never hear about Abram's regret for leaving his past life in Haran. He does not long for his father or his mother or his friends and other family members that he left behind. Because he was able to let it all go, Abram moved freely ahead and traveled lightly. It is through his faith in God and his ability to let the past go that gave us the blessing of the sacred covenant between God and the Jewish people. We learn from these two biblical stories that in order to move forward, we need to make an either-or choice. However, our tradition tells us otherwise. The Talmud teaches life is a choice of two paths, one of fire and one of ice. If you turn in either direction, you will be harmed. What shall you do? You should walk in the middle. We are constantly striving to find balance in our lives. Some of us have to balance work and school with family time. Some of us have to balance a budget. Some of us have to balance our Facebook and Angry Birds time with homework. Of course, now it's Fruit Ninja. Finding balance is difficult. It takes work, it takes thought, and it takes planning. Choosing how we carry our luggage is about balance and making sure not to tilt to one side or the other. How we carry it should not be an either-or decision, but rather a both-and decision. I have devoted the past 5 years to intense Jewish study, attending daily lectures, breaking my teeth over translation assignments, spending hours of reading a night, taking tests, and writing dozens of term papers. And now I'm thinking about this because we want you all to come to HUC, and don't let that turn you away. You'll see why. When I leave HUC, I am certain that term papers and exams are a thing of the past. But as eager as I am to take that bold step forward, I am equally as terrified. I'm afraid of the uncertainty that awaits me on the other side. As I look at all of you high schoolers in the room, I can't help but remember how I felt during my senior year of high school. And to tell you the truth, it feels a lot like how I'm feeling right now. How many of you have aspects of high school that you will not miss? I personally could not wait to be done with the geometry formulas, the invitation to sit at the cool table in the lunchroom, and football pep rallies. Above all else, I could not wait to be freed from the control of my parents and living in a household of 4 younger sisters. I was ready to drop it all and move on. I survived. Yet, ironically, on the drive to Ohio State with my dad, I was afraid. I realized I was not ready to let it all go. Even though that's what seemed to be the right thing to do. Home was comfortable. It protected me from having to face the real world and living in it. However, I understood then, as I do now, that we do not have to let it all go. While there are plenty of things we need to leave behind, such as some of the just-in-case things, we must be mindful of what firmly anchors us and gives us strength to move forward. I will gladly leave behind the all-night Jewish history study sessions, as well as the Bible paper rewrites. But sadly, I must soon leave the comfort of this community, the friends I have made here, and most importantly, the teachers with whom I have been blessed, and to study and grow. Yet I will always carry the heart and soul of my teachers and my experiences at HUC. That's the can't live without luggage. This is what has come to help shape who I am and my willingness, confidence, and ability to move forward. Within the next couple of years, many of you will be faced with similar decisions. Like the generations that have come before you, you will soon leave your homes and go off to college or work, and you'll need to decide how to balance between the fire and the ice. Be intentional about choosing the stuff that has come to help form your identity and self-confidence. Carry the lessons and the wisdom you have learned from your past experiences and relationships, both the positive and even the painful ones. At the same time, learn to allow yourself to let go of the stuff that gets in the way of your growth and only holds you back. For me as a Jew, here's what it all boils down to. We are faced with 2 paradigms in Deuteronomy 30. Natati lefanecha habracha v'haklala. I have placed before you life and death. We choose life when we engage the world and let it engage us. We choose death when we run and hide. Our history has had more of its share of tragedy. The Jewish people have faced pain and heartache, and we have been forced to carry a heavy load. We can choose to give in to those who have tried to destroy us. We can decide not to make waves with our Judaism, or even worse, pretend it does not exist. Or we v'charta b'chayim. We choose life. In the shadow of the Shoah and the constant state of international condemnation, we can stand tall and remember what our teachers have taught us. When no one in the world is acting like a human, we must strive to be human. We do not need to accept the burden of being the victims, but we must accept the responsibility of being the teachers. We must teach the world to look beyond its prejudices, fears, and disdain for the things it doesn't understand. We must teach the value of everyone and everything that God has created. We hope the world will choose life. One of the great things we learn from our patriarchs and matriarchs is how to make better choices. As a father, it is my responsibility to help pave the way to a brighter future for my son Aiden. While I cannot control how Aiden will choose to carry his luggage, I will do my best to v'charta b'chayim, to choose life and to find a job in a city with a winning sports team. Keni Hiratzon, may this be God's will.